All right, so welcome everyone to our GoldenReady Preparedness Forum. Just a few quick notes for all of you. Today's presentation is designed for our guests here in the Oakland area and surrounding communities. And so a lot of what you will hear today is specifically for that audience. Our hope is that if you are joining us from other specific areas, that you will be able to take that information and apply it to wherever you are. So that may mean engaging with your local community, asking questions of your local municipality to get that same type of information about hazards that are important to you. Today, this event is for you. And so the questions that you have are extremely important to us. Any insights that you'd like to provide are extremely important to us. We will have a Q&A portion at the end of each one of our presentations so that you can ask your questions. We ask that you share your name so that we can address you by your name as you engage with us, and that you utilize the chat feature to ask any questions that you have as they come up if you're online, or maybe jot down a question that you might have if you're here in the room, so that when we get to the Q&A portion, you can ask that question. We're going to move rather quickly, and we'll have maybe a 5 to 10 minute break between each one of the sessions. So if you'd like to step out and come back into the session, please do that. And we will have all of this information available to you after the fact, which is why we are recording. So you will be able to have it and share it with those that you love. So thank you for joining us. We will now have a welcome from our Deputy Regional Administrator, Tammy Luttrell from FEMA Region 9. Tammy?
Great. Thank you, Brandy. I really do appreciate this window of opportunity. I know I would wish I was accustomed to the hybrid. I'm not sure if I'm looking at a virtual audience, but I have real people here also. So if you see me looking off to the left more frequently, it's because I'm acknowledging those of you who are present, but I also appreciate all of you in cyberspace as well. And so in partnership with the Centers for Elders Independence, the City of Oakland, also Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency known as CISA, we have many opportunities to partner together. And today we're going to talk about 3 specific topics, and it's going to be centered around 1, disaster preparedness, 2, active shooter preparedness, and 3, cybersecurity preparedness. And I know those all sound like very serious situations, and they are. I think that the more that we learn and we are prepared, we can reduce the risks and the consequences that come associated with all 3 of those very topics. So I am going to share some information with you today that is going to also let you know why it is so important that we have this discussion. So let's start with talking about disaster preparedness. Older adults are more likely to be affected by disasters than other groups. In fact, according to the National Council on Aging, older adults make up 13% of the population, but they also account for 35% of deaths during disasters. Today, we're going to learn many things about how you can prepare, such as creating your own and your family disaster plan. How would you put kits and supplies together? I actually, before this session, I was sharing with Brandy, I happen to be a caregiver of my grandmother. So we were talking about our Go kit, and this very session helped us to see we need to reevaluate our Go kit. Take a look at what is in it. Do I still need it? Is it expired? Is it important? And 1, if you get an evacuation order and it's really, really quick, can you do that swiftly and quickly? I used our example. We had a fire alarm. We had a fire in our apartment complex, for example, and we were so focused on getting our furry family member in his kitty carrier that we both ran down the stairs. And as I was trying to balance our furry family member and my grandmother down 5 flights of stairs, we realized we didn't even have our go bags on our back. But it is important to be, you're only one person, you can't carry everything. So I'm just sharing my live experience with you and how important it is to also pay attention to emergency alerts. And when you hear those emergency alerts or when you're told to evacuate. Another situation that we're gonna talk about today, and these are what subject matter experts, but unfortunately, we did have a recent event take place in Monterey, for example, and that was active shooter threat. And an active shooter threat, once again, can older adults be more vulnerable in these situations? Yes. We want to be able to teach you what can you do in that particular situation. The FBI, or according to the FBI, unfortunately, once again, that's also another incident. If we don't know what to do, the consequences are very severe. And last, however, not least, we're going to talk about cybersecurity preparedness. And these threats are very, how do I say this? Once again, the older population is vulnerable to this threat. This is an area that's actually very near and dear to me as well. My graduate level studies actually were in cyber terrorism. And when we take a look about the frequency, I'm not going to try to teach this session to you because we have an expert on it, but I would highly recommend, because it's the same advice that I give my grandmother, and that's the importance of changing your password. Sounds easy, sounds simple, but it is really important for you to be able to protect yourself, protect your identity, protect your family. So with all of these 3 subjects that I just mentioned, we are going to be here today. I want to thank Brandy, Dave Passy, our team that is here, that is helping us be able to address any questions that you have. But I want to turn it back over to our facilitator and look forward to a day of education and sharing our experience with you. Thank you.
Right. Good afternoon. My name is Uche Owahemo. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for Center for Elders Independence in Oakland here, and we are partnering with FEMA for this very important event today. So I will introduce the next speaker. That's the CEO and President of Center for Elders Independence, Maria Zamora.
Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Uche and Brandy, for putting this event together for us. Such a critical event. I also would like to acknowledge FEMA Region 9. Thank you, Tammy, for your comments, for being partners with CEI in this event. This really demonstrates your care and concern for some of the most vulnerable members of our community. As Uche said, Maria Zamora, I'm the President and CEO of the Center for Elders Independence, a program of all-inclusive care for the elderly, or PACE. We've served older adults in the East Bay for over 41 years. It is so fitting that we're doing this event in September, as September is also National PACE Month and National Emergency Preparedness Month. So what a wonderful synergy we have here. It's so, here are some of the facts we know. Some of this Tammy mentioned in her opening comments, but California has seen a record number of extreme natural disasters in the past 3 years alone. This includes earthquakes, flooding, heat waves, drought, just to name a few. These events can be stressful for any of us. However, when you're a senior living alone, the stress of these situations can be far more significant. Data shows, as Tammy mentioned, that older adults are least prepared for disasters and also have the highest rate of disaster-related death. As a PACE provider to nearly 1,200 seniors throughout the East Bay, Center for Elders and Dependents sees firsthand the increased impact that emergencies have on our elders. When an individual doesn't drive, may have difficulty navigating stairs, cannot move as quickly, could have a hard time with technology, or maybe dependent on electricity for medical needs such as life-sustaining equipment, the urgency in the moment is compounded. Older adults can get left behind. Planning ahead is extremely important, but building community is equally critical. Independence doesn't mean that you have to prepare for or navigate an emergency alone. This is why we're here today, to learn to help ourselves and to help each other. Whether you are here in person or on Zoom, let's promise each other to be better prepared today, tomorrow, and beyond. Thank you all for being here today, both to those in the room and those joining us by Zoom. And I hope you find this information very helpful and valuable in your emergency preparedness.
Okay, again, at this point, I would like to acknowledge some elected officials in the room, and I know that folks are still coming in gradually, but just want to acknowledge our county supervisors, senior staff, Daryl Stewart, who is here representing the county supervisor, and we are expecting more folks to trickle in. Obviously, we're doing this in the middle of the day, so we're expecting more folks to come in. So we'll do that acknowledgement as we see fit. Okay, thank you.
And now we would like to welcome Robert Mooney.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right. You should be able to. All right. I'm cheating. Giving you. Can you see my slides?
Yes.
I think I just let everybody cheat and see the slides ahead, but we'll get through it. All right. If you can see me and you can hear me, we'll go ahead and get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Robert, for being here, and go right ahead.
All right. Thank you so much. And I appreciate the partnership with FEMA Region 9. My name is Rob Mooney. I'm what's called a protective security advisor with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. I was asked to participate today to talk to you about a very important topic on the active shooter threat and active shooter response. We're going to walk through this presentation. But very briefly, a little bit about myself. So I came from I started off adult life in the Marine Corps, spent about a decade there doing infantry and then security, and then went on to Virginia Beach Police, where I spent several years before I started with the Department of Homeland Security back in 2006. Since then, I've been what's called a protective security advisor. My day-to-day activities have me located in Eastern Virginia. And I'm also in an acting capacity as the branch chief for the active assailant branch out of our headquarters. And that's how I was able to get linked up with FEMA Region 9. And I, again, appreciate the opportunity. And thank you all so much for sitting in and listening on this important series of topics that we're going to talk about today. Can you still see my slides?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, my screen changed to show a picture of myself, which was a little disturbing. So first thing I want to do is what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the run, hide, fight methodology is what the department is the methodology that the department has adopted. And we're going to talk through a little bit about the history of the active shooter problem. We're going to talk about some potential indicators or suspicious activity, and then hopefully give you some tools to help survive a potential active shooter situation or any situation, violent situation that you may find yourself in. So in order to kind of frame the problem, it's important to understand how we define an active shooter event. It's an individual in a confined or populated area that is looking to kill or injure as many people as possible, right? Now, the definition involves 3 or more injuries, right? And you're going to see a couple stats over some upcoming slides that lay that out. But again, it's that active aspect and with not a defined target. It's, you know, anybody's a target, anybody that they can kill or wound in that compressed period of time and space is what they're looking to accomplish. And it's this problem, it's this active shooter problem. It's very different than a lot of crimes that we were familiar with, right? This is very different than, you know, a burglary or a robbery or that domestic assault. This is people just looking to kill as many people as they can for a variety of different reasons. Okay, so historically, I think it's important to understand the trends that we're seeing. If the FBI has done a tremendous amount of research involving these situations, going back to, you know, well before 2000. But this period that we're going to discuss shows a period between 2000 and 2022, right? If you look at that decade between 2000 and 2009, we averaged around 10 incidents a year, right? Again, with that definition of 3 or more victims associated with the shooting. If you go into that next decade between 2010 and 2019, roughly a decade, the numbers almost doubled, right? Averaging about 20 per year. And then over the recent years, between 2020 and 2022, the average is somewhere around 50, right? Now, what I find most disturbing is if you look at those time periods, those were during COVID years as well. So going into 2020 and 2021, we as society were acting very differently. We weren't attending the same sort of events. So you know, hopefully these numbers will trend down coming out of this. A lot of folks will chalk this up as like, you know, COVID depression and things like that may have induced some of these incidents. But the trend here that you're seeing, the upward trend is definitely concerning. So I also want to lay out where these incidents are taking place, right? So predominantly they take places in open areas or businesses that are open to pedestrian traffic. You know, as you see, there are 154 of them. 102 are in open spaces. Then it drops off and businesses closed to pedestrian traffic, right? It was 51, schools K through 12, 50. And then in the teens for all the rest of the different types of facilities, between houses of worship, healthcare facilities, higher education, shopping malls, and so on, right? The moral of the story here is that these incidents can take place anywhere we go throughout our lives, right? The likelihood of them happening to you is extremely, extremely small, but they can take place. So the importance, though, is to understand that they could take place and recognize and not have the attitude of it can't happen here or it won't happen here, because it certainly can, right? And what experts in this field will also all agree on is that preparedness and awareness is key to your survival during these incidents. Okay. So the threat today, we're very familiar. We all watch the news. There's a number of different different types of weapons out there. Between long guns, short guns, automatic weapons, non-automatic weapons, things like that. But the threat just doesn't stop there, right? Technology and different methods of attack have crept its way into society. You know, we've seen vehicles being used as weapons at mass gathering events, a number of them across the United States. The most significant one in Nice, France. We have unmanned aerial vehicles. You know, these things are you're able to purchase them at any you know, Best Buy and stores like that. You know, and people are trying to weaponize these things. And then the old fashioned edge weapon, right? You know, these things are also readily available, and have been used in attacks throughout time. So it's not as simple as just an active shooter attack. It's an active assailant attack, and there's many different forms of many different vectors for those attacks that can take place. Okay. It's important to understand the what we call the pathway to violence. And the pathway to violence is exactly that. It's an individual that's on a pathway to committing some sort of violence. And it all starts with a grievance. And the reason why I put this out there is to increase the awareness, to make folks, you know, to thought-provoking, to where people are paying attention to the people around them, and so that they know where that they can take this information if they're seeing somebody that's identifying some of these characteristics or are on their pathway to violence, right? So that pathway of violence starts with that grievance, right? An individual is mad about something and determines that they need to take action and cause harm to a group of people or people, right? And then they get that idea that they're going to commit that act of violence. And from there, it's that planning process. And this planning process is key because it often offers us mechanisms to identify the behavior and do something about it. Almost every attack that you see in the news, excuse me, almost every attack that you see in the news, there was somebody that saw something that failed to do something about it, right? So we want to minimize that and start paying attention, right? So an individual that has determined that they're going to create some sort of violence, they start that planning process, whether it's research, and then they start doing some preparations and probing, and maybe scouting out the area, visiting the area that they're going to attend. I was in Alabama a couple weeks ago, just to kind of take a side turn here. And I got to meet a gentleman by the name of Jim Musgrove. Jim Musgrove was a 79-year-old man, small-framed individual, who was attending a potluck dinner at his local church, right? In attendance, there was 24 of his good friends that they were there just enjoying each other's company and dinner. And the reason why I bring that up during this presentation, a month prior, during that same potluck, an individual that just seemed off attended that potluck and was acting very strangely, right? He was probing or doing some research at that facility. Well, a month later, fast forward to the day that I'm talking about, and Jim was sitting there at the potluck, and this same individual came back and he sat down at a table. And this is going to lead into the next parts of the presentations, but this individual was a pretty large guy, and he was sitting at the table with his legs up under the table, and he pulled out a weapon and he proceeded to shoot 3 of Jim's close friends, right? Now, Jim, like I said, was a 79-year-old man. He had some military experience long in his past, but he took action. And Jim, in that moment, picked up his chair and he charged the individual because he knew the individual wasn't going to stop doing what he was doing. And as Jim got close to the individual saw him in his peripheral vision and turned his weapon towards Jim. Well, Jim attacked the weapon, disarmed the man, and proceeded to restrain and beat that individual for 12 minutes. 12 minutes that it took for law enforcement to respond, right? So I don't know about any of you, but 12 minutes is an extremely long time to do anything, let alone wait for law enforcement to arrive. So there was a lot of learning lessons. You know, Jim is an absolute hero in saying that, in his story and his experience, for a number of reasons. One, Jim did on that day what most of us pregame and think and plan through and run through different scenarios in our head all the time, right? You know, I've run through those scenarios 1,000 times in my head in hopes that I act slightly like Jim did on that day. So coming back to this, those individuals, they do a lot of times they'll do the research, the planning, they'll do the probing, the breaching prior to that attack. So when you're seeing individuals that are doing, that the behavior is just not right, make sure that you're notifying somebody to do something about it. So of the behavioral indicators that I want to talk about, there's two different types here that I want to talk about. Is the behavioral indicators of people we know, and then people we don't know, right? So people in our world, right, whether it's family or coworkers or people, in our congregation at churches, if these individuals start talking about violent incidents, expressions of suicide or violence, some overreaction or focused on weapons and things like that, overreaction to changes, violating policies, paranoia, angry outburst, absenteeism, all these kind of just behaviors, withdrawn, things like that. It's time that we do something about it. It's time that we tell management, tell our caseworkers, tell teachers, tell leaders in the church, so that they can intervene and do something about it before something happens, and to get that person off that pathway to violence, if that makes sense. The other type of indicators that I want to briefly talk about is the people that we don't know, right? These are the people that we encounter at the grocery store or on our way in and out of the office or in the shopping mall, sort of thing, right? If people are questioning you or employees and things like that, how many times do we go to the grocery store and people still have their badges on from work, right? And there's those normal questions or the normal conversation of, hey, my kid goes to that school too. Or I've got a sister-in-law that works there too, or whatever it may be. But what's not normal is those probing questions about, hey, when are the most people, when are most people there? Or is there security at nighttime? Or do you have alarms or cameras and things like that? Those behaviors that are just not right are the ones we want to do something about, right? A series of false pattern or false alarms, people probing our defenses, unusual or unannounced maintenance, right? People pretending to be maintenance workers to get into your facilities. We're all used to people taking selfies in the normal tourist pictures, but people taking pictures of your security features, your emergency exits, your loading docks, things like that are just not normal, right? And then repeated sightings of people loitering or hanging around your facility that just don't have a reason to be there, right? And it's also very important to take threats seriously nowadays, right? So whether we're talking about a post on social media or writing on the bathroom stall, make sure that information is shared with people that can do something about it. Okay. What I want to talk briefly about, and I told the story of Jim, my new hero that I met a few weeks ago. But when I can't see the folks in the room, but I think it's safe to assume that every person in the room has been through some sort of stressful situation in their lives, right? And if you haven't, I'd like to meet you. But our bodies do. Sorry. So our bodies go through certain things during a crisis, right? We've all heard of fight, flight, or freeze. Or that moment in time, when we're driving down the highway, if there's an accident taking place, that moment in time where you're observing what's happening, until your body takes over and you take some sort of action, right? There's a period of time, right? And what we want to do through mental training and through pre-planning and thinking through different scenarios is shorten that amount of time. It's running through those healthy scenarios in your head of how would I react if, right? How would I react if this happened? So those things are very healthy to do. How would I react if somebody came through my door right now and did X? And I'm going to talk a minute about run, hide, fight, but having a plan on how you're going to remove yourself from these situations to survive is very important. But as you see on the slide, your body does a number of things in a crisis. It could be hyperventilation. It could be accelerated heart rate. You get that adrenaline rush or your dopamine dump. Your peripheral vision gets very narrowly focused, right? Sometimes you're not aware of what's going on around you. And then a lot of times you can't even hear, right? You're so narrowly focused on the problem in front of you that you get that narrow focus and the vision goes out, okay? So bringing it back, and I want to talk about for a few minutes about the run, hide, fight methodology. This isn't a priority order. We would encourage you to remove yourself from the situation or run, right? That is getting yourself off the X. What's referred to as the X is where that bad situation has taken place. Remove yourself from it. Take you and the people that you care about, the people around you, and get out of there. There's a lot of different methodologies out there. The Department of Homeland Security has adopted the run, hide, fight methodology. I like it. It's easy to remember. It's kind of like stop, drop, and roll to me. You can wrap your head around it. And it doesn't take a lot to retain that. So run is the priority. Run if you can. If you cannot, then you hide. And as an absolute last resort, you're in a fight for your life. This is a means of survival, right? So a couple of things to keep in mind. And now what we're going to talk about, this applies not just in your workspace or where you volunteer at or your church, but everywhere you go throughout your day, right? You should have some situational awareness about you to know where things like different exits are, right? There's a local grocery store where about 10 years ago, there was a shooting just up the street from my house. And the shooter came into the front of the grocery store, up towards the registers, just like every other grocery store where they were at the front of the store. And the individual shot a young airman on a Sunday morning. Very tragic. What happened after that, where everybody in the grocery store ran directly past that threat out the front doors to their cars because they knew that was their way out? Well, they put themselves in harm's way doing so. So what I ask you to do is identify where that threat is and go the opposite direction, right? Get away from the threat. Have a plan in mind, whether you're going into the shopping mall, whether you're checking into a hotel, notice where the fire exits are and things like that. As you're leaving, be a good citizen, try and get others to evacuate with you. But if they refuse to go, then at that point then they're on their own, right? Leave your belongings behind. We can replace your purses, your bags, your things, your phones, but we can't replace you, right? And as you're leaving, make sure that you're preventing other people from coming in. Another thing I want to point out is we don't pull fire alarms during an active shooter situation. Okay, we do not pull fire alarms. A fire evacuation is very, very different than an active shooter evacuation. A fire evacuation, we orderly move out the main entrance. We go to our pre-designated location, and we wait for the fire department to come to give us an all clear. Right? During an active shooter evacuation or an active assailant evacuation, we're getting ourselves out of that building as fast as we can. We're getting down the road and around the corner, and we're not stopping until we feel safe, right? So very importantly, it is a very, very different evacuation than any other evacuation. As you're leaving, follow law enforcement instructions. Keep your hands visible and listen to their instructions. I'm going to talk about law enforcement at the end of this presentation, so we're going to circle back to that. Again, as you're exiting the area, keep running until you're away from the site and safe. If you have a pre-designated rally point, that's great, but it should not be in the same location as a fire evacuation. It may be a pub down the road, or a library around the corner, kind of thing. But the key in these sort of evacuations is continuing to go until you're safe, and then getting accountability for yourself and your peers and your colleagues and your friends, right? Let somebody know that you're safe. That same event that I spoke of in the grocery store, there's an individual that worked in the produce section who evacuated, and then law enforcement spent hours looking for this individual. We'll come to find out he was at home playing the Xbox, right? He failed to let anybody know where he was at. Don't be that individual. Make sure that you let people know that you're safe, and we don't return to the scene until law enforcement gives the all clear. Okay. All right. So if running was not an option, right? What we need to do is hide. And we need to hide and barricade ourselves. A very important part of this is knowing your surroundings, knowing your workplace, knowing that, maybe your housing environment, knowing the spaces around you of what doors lock, what doors are solid, places that you can physically barricade yourself in, right? To give time for law enforcement to show up to resolve the situation, right? So when you lock the door, you want to barricade it. You want to take every piece of furniture and things that you can and pile it up in front of that door to give yourself time to survive while law enforcement is showing up, okay? While you're in that room and you're barricaded, what you want to do is you want to turn the lights off, you want to silence your cell phone, and you want to get out from in front of that door. People tend to shoot through doorways, and we don't want to be on the other side of that door. So you want to move yourself to the side or corner of the room and make yourself small in the corner of the room. And we don't open that door for anybody or anything until we're 100% certain that it's law enforcement on the other side of that door, okay? There's other mechanisms. You can dial, you can text 911, keep the phone on silent. You certainly don't want to let the shooter know where you're at or that you're in there. And again, you're trying to create time and space for law enforcement to show up. As we said, you want to be out of the shooter's view, provide protection. There's a difference between cover and concealment, right? Many of our spaces, they don't offer cover. Cover is protection. Concealment is just hiding you, right? So the better of the two is hiding behind something like a brick wall. They could provide you some cover. Most of the time we find ourselves during, in normal construction where we have what's called concealment. So being quiet and concealing yourselves and silencing everything is extremely important. And if possible, there's alternate means to get out of buildings, right? Windows are exit points as well. Don't be afraid to break through a window. We can replace windows, but always choose option number one if you can, which is to run and evacuate yourself from the building. One thing I want to go back to is on the run piece that I forgot to mention. If you find yourself wounded for some reason, this is not a time to render long-term first aid, right? There's somebody that's actively attempting to shoot people. If you find yourself wounded, your best means of survival is to get outside of the skin of that building by any means possible. And the reason why is when law enforcement shows up, it takes a tremendous amount of time for them to move through the building and clear the building before paramedics and medical aid will get to you, right? So if you can get outside of the skin of that building, the time will drastically increase, and your survival your odds of survival will increase as well. When running was not an option, hiding was not an option, and now if neither of those two things were able to work out, in the example that I gave for Jim Musgrove when I started my presentation, at this point you're in a fight for your life, right? At the end of the day, you need to go home, right? So you need to be extremely violent, commit to your actions, use any means necessary to stop that individual from harming you or additionally harming people around you, right? By committing to your actions, using what we call weapons of opportunity. And I'll show you just a couple of examples of these here, right? Anything that's in your workplace or in your office or in your houses, apartments, there are weapons all around you, right? That you can use to incapacitate somebody. There's a lot more than this out there. These are just some examples. But commit to your actions. You're here to stop this individual from causing additional harm, and it needs, again, you're in a fight for your life. So, one of the more difficult parts of this issue is understanding law enforcement's role in the active shooter response. Okay, law enforcement has a very specific role, and that role is to show up to the scene as fast as possible. And they're going to continue to move through your facility with one goal in mind initially, and that's to stop that threat. When they're coming into your buildings, they're laser focused on identifying where that threat is, moving through your building, identify that threat, and stopping that individual from causing further harm. Right? So, they're going to come and they're going to come in a variety of different uniforms, depending on where they're coming from, what agency they're with. They could show up in the normal law enforcement uniform. They could be detectives wearing suit and tie. They could be wearing raid jackets. They could be wearing tactical uniforms if they were part of the SWAT team. Their mission is to show up and to stop that threat. And they're going to continue to come until that threat has been neutralized, right? And it's very important to understand that everybody in that facility is an unknown. They don't know who that individual is, right? So it's very important to keep your hands visible, listen to what they're telling you to do, right? And be helpful rather than to cause additional harm, right? Don't be surprised if you find yourself handcuffed, right? Because law enforcement, like I said, has a very specific goal, and that's stopping that threat. So avoid pointing, screaming, yelling, right? And listen to law enforcement commands, and please don't make quick movements toward the officers and things like that. Just listen to what they have to, listen to their commands. All righty, that was a lot in a very short time. Randy, I can't hear you. I think you're on mute, Randy.
Are there any questions in the room? Any questions in the chat?
Whoa, that's a big head up on the wall. Any questions?
So Robert, what's a question that you get often when you share this information? Because I know you provide this information quite a bit.
Yes, I do. So one of the ones is identifying suspicious activity that I think is important to circle back on. And it goes way back to the beginning of this process or problem, on the pathway to violence. And we talked about we talked about some of the studies and where these shootings happen. It's very important to know how to report suspicious activity and what suspicious activity is, right? We've all heard terms like profiling and things like that. I think it's very important to say that as it relates to reporting suspicious activity, if you focus on the behavior, you will never be wrong. If you focus on anything other than that, whether you're talking about color, creed, religion, what somebody looks like, where they come from, if you focus on those things, you'll almost always be wrong. But if you focus on the behavior, you'll almost always be right in your justification for reporting suspicious activity. So I think it's important as in a community to know where you can report these suspicious things, whether it's non-emergency numbers for law enforcement, 911 through the state fusion centers, places like or through private entities like security and businesses and stuff like that. But know how to report suspicious activity, and that's extremely critical. Is that okay?
That's excellent. A question that I have, when I was young, my grandmother used to sit on the porch and she would peep. She'd be peeping at what other people were doing.
Uh-huh.
She would sit on the porch, and then she would also look through the blinds. She would call it peeping, for real. Yeah. And so she would be the neighborhood watch. She was always paying attention to what other people were doing. So, but she was a very much older adult. Sure. So what role can older adults that maybe are at home or maybe have a little bit more time play in helping to identify things that are going on in the community?
Well, I think they play a very valuable role, and kind of like your grandmother, the ability to know what's not right. I'm going to use a curse word here, and I apologize. But I was in a briefing a long time ago where there was a couple hundred people in the audience, and some PhD was given a discussion on suspicious activity, right? And then the PhD posed the question of what is suspicious, right? And there was an individual in the back of the room that raised his hand and said, "Some shit ain't right." right? And your grandma knew what shit wasn't right, right? Just like, you know, everybody in that room that you're there with, they know what's not right. They know what makes the hair on the back of the neck stand up. And their role in reporting that is extremely, extremely critical, right? I know not everybody can be a Jim Musgrove, like I talked about that 79-year-old man at the beginning of my presentation. I hope that one day, or that I grow into that 79-year-old Jim Musgrove. But that's not everybody's role, right? A very important role is being able to share that, you know, to relay that information on to law enforcement, know what's going on in their community, be an active observer in their community, and it's extremely critical. And to the other point that I said earlier is that, you know, in almost every one of these situations, somebody saw something and failed to do something about it, right? So don't be that individual that fails to do something about it, right? We've got law enforcement, we've got all these different folks. Let's let them, you know, let's let them do their work and stop these next threats from happening. So I hope that answered your question, Brian.
It does. Thank you so much. Any last question in the audience? Final call. Absolutely. Uche has a question.
Trying to have the audience.
We got the expert on the line.
Right, exactly. So first of all, thank you for doing this presentation. But my question is really this: there are some areas or institutions that historically we consider them to be sacred, like church, our faith-based areas and schools. But we've seen an increase in, you know, of shooting happening. Do you have an idea as to why we've seen this ongoing increase in these areas that typically we don't, you know, we don't mess with, we don't attack?
Yeah, if I knew the answer to that question, sir, I'd probably, you know, I think if we could solve that problem, we'd be in a much better place. But the reality is you're right. We are seeing an uptick in incidents at places like houses of worship. I'll also say that it's as it relates to that, it's very important that folks take advantage of resources that are available to their organizations. Like I'm going to beat the drum for the FEMA nonprofit grant program, right? As one great resource that houses of worship should be taken advantage of, or any other nonprofit organizations that fall into that category. But there's also services out there that can help on the prevention protection side of things that we work on. Local law enforcement does the same thing. We've got folks in the community that can come out and do assessments, do walkthroughs of these facilities to heighten the awareness of security, talk through concerns, help them come up with strategies to prevent it. Another common one, and I need to be careful here, otherwise I'll be talking for another hour. But doing things like at church, putting the greeters and ushers, getting them to work with the security team, and getting to promote the idea that security starts outside of the facility, out in the parking lot, to identify that threat as far away from their facility as they can, right? So there's a number of low cost, no cost things that we can do as a community or as organizations to kind of identify that threat as far away, use the reporting mechanisms that we have. You know, so unfortunately, I don't have the answer to your real question of why. I wish I did, but unfortunately, that's about as good as I got, sir.
Well, thank you for that. I think you did a great job.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you for joining us. Oh, one more question. Come on.
All right.
A lot of seniors are going online on Facebook and social media sites. And oftentimes you hear afterwards about a shooting and all where the shooter may have been online and posting pictures and threats. So what would you advise somebody to do to raise caution about a posting that they saw on Facebook or another social media site?
You know, that this is an easy one, and it's just report that suspicious activity, right? Take that information, whether it be, you know, a screenshot of whatever that is, and get that information in the hands of people that can do something about it, right? and don't hesitate to do that.
She said like local authorities.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. Thanks for your time. We're going to give you all an extended break before our next presentation. And yeah.
All right. Thank you for having me. Take care.
Thanks,
Be safe.
Robert. Welcome back. So now I am really thrilled to present to you our next presenter from the city of Oakland. Yay! Brianna, do you want to tell them a little bit about what you do at the city of Oakland and how you're going to explain to them about emergency preparedness, which is all about what we do at FEMA. So I'm super excited and I know you will enjoy this presentation. So get your thinking caps together, start asking your questions in the chat and start writing your questions down. Presenting Brianna.
Thank you so much. Ready, Oakland? Just so I know who I'm talking to, both here in the room and then also digitally. Can you just raise your hand and let me know if you are from Oakland, of Oakland, you work in Oakland, live here, play here? Great, super, awesome. So my name is Brianna Horton. I'm an emergency planning coordinator. I'm one of 2 emergency planning coordinators for the city of Oakland. We are an EMSD, that stands for Emergency Management Services Division. Here in the city of Oakland, our EMS or our OES in other jurisdictions, sometimes they call it Office of Emergency Services. It's the same thing, we just have a different acronym. But here in the city of Oakland, we're based out of the city of Oakland's fire department. So in some jurisdictions, it might be in the police department or your sheriff's department if you're a county. But here in the city of Oakland, your EMSD or your OES professionals are in the fire department. So there are several of us on the team. Oakland's EMSD team is about 8 positions big. There is an emergency manager, an assistant emergency manager. There are 2 senior emergency planning coordinators, and then there are 2 junior planning coordinators. So my experience is rather limited. I'm probably not the most knowledgeable person on my team, but I have been doing just general emergency preparedness work in Oakland in the community for about 3 years now. And so I will take all the questions that you have today, understanding that I might not be able to answer all of them, but working with Randy and the team from FEMA, I'm happy to bring the answers back to you or send them out so that you can follow up.
Yes, I have a question. My name is D. Gentleman. I know these people use a lot of big words. I'm curious, like, well, I like the abbreviation. What is it?
For EMSD, it stands for Emergency Management Services Division. So that's just the division within the fire department that is specifically responsible for helping the community prepare for any emergencies or natural disasters. We also work with our city internally to create coordinated plans. So you have like integrated preparedness plans, local hazard mitigation plans, emergency operations plans. I'll talk a little bit about some of those things and how you all can access those documents soon. But generally speaking, it's our team that's doing a lot of the behind the scenes coordination work for these larger incidents when they take place. Okay. Just one second. Thank you. So I am really excited to be here today to share this information with you all. Older adults have specific needs and emergencies that sometimes get overlooked or they're not spoken about enough in these presentations and trainings. So thank you to the FEMA team for having this event and inviting Oakland to be a part of it and kind of share and make connections. So as soon as we can click. Great. So what we'll talk about today, this is an abbreviated version of a longer personal emergency preparedness training that we provide. It's from the core program. If you're here in person, you'll see handouts and flyers on your table that kind of give an overview of what the core program can do and what trainings it provides. All of it is free. So today I hope to give you maybe just like a teaser of some of the information that you can expect to get if you were to register with us and sign up for the longer version. We only have about 30 minutes today. This presentation is typically about 90 minutes long, but I hope that you get some of the most important takeaways. So with that, what we'll talk about today are some of the local hazards that you should be aware of as someone who spends time in this city. We'll talk about ways that you can stay informed, some of the public alerts and warnings and where to sign up for those and what they sound like, where to just kind of stay generally aware and abreast of what's going on in the city. We'll talk a little bit about some of the steps that you can take to prepare yourselves and in your home. We will give you some best practices and tips or recommendations for how to make a plan and build a kit. There are several kinds of kits, so we'll go into detail about what kind of kit might be useful where. We'll talk a little bit about what it looks like to recover, and then we'll provide additional links and resources. So going through the hazards, Oakland has several of them. Some of the ones that come up most immediately to folks when you're just thinking about it, you're probably like, oh, wildfire's one, earthquake is one, but the city of Oakland has other hazards that you do need to be aware of, and it also depends on where specifically in the city you are. So when we're talking about natural disasters here in the city of Oakland, we are also concerned about severe weather. We are concerned about flooding, especially during the winter storms. When it gets really, really rainy in January, December, we're kind of coming up on that. We do have a small risk of tsunami here, but as my supervisor likes to remind us, we are protected because of our geographic or the geology here in the Bay Area, to where tsunami is a threat in the city of Oakland, but it's not as big of a threat as you would find maybe in a place like Crescent City or something like that. That's NorCal for folks who don't know exactly where that's at. Climate change is something that we want to be really aware of, and that also has more severe impacts to our older American community. And then we also have things like technological hazards, and then there's human caused hazards or dangers that we could be more aware of as well. So the previous presentation talked a lot about the human caused ones, active shooter, that was what that was all about, but that's something that we need to consider here in the city as well. Climate change is on there a couple of times because there are human factors that exacerbate that. It's something that's going to happen naturally, and the effects of it, right? Heavier rainstorms, more severe weather is one of those things, but there's also things that we can do. And so we just kind of want to highlight that in both areas, that humans have an impact on our climate as well. Dam inundation, just by a show of hands, either online or here, does anybody know what dams might affect us here in the city if there were something like dam failure or anything like that? Say it one more time. So if a dam does fail, significant flooding would occur in the city of Oakland. I'll get to it in a couple other places, but like we have that San Pablo Reservoir. I think there's a dam that's connected with Lake Chabot. There's a couple other ones. All of those, even though they're not like right here in Oakland, if any of one of those would have failed, they can impact us pretty severely. So it's something that we want you guys to know. And then this was my first time actually being involved in an emergency operations center activation. But here in Oakland, we experienced in 2019, for the first time ever, PG&E proactively shutting down the power. Does anybody remember when PG&E did that because of the wildfires? So those are things that are technological in nature, pressed by a button that a human made, but due to the climate. So they're kind of connected there, but just a really quick list of what we should be thinking of when we say get ready, get prepared. So the first one will kind of go in detail with all of the different hazards and the actions that you might be able to take to prepare yourselves or stay safe. But the first one on the list is earthquake safety. It's the big one. We practice this every October. Next month, we'll be getting ready for the Great Oakland Shakeout. I think more broadly, it's just the Great Shakeout. But before a quake, some of the things that we advise folks to do are make sure that you have sturdy shoes nearby. Some of the most common injuries reported after an earthquake are bloody feet from stepping on broken glass. So we always advise you maybe having a thicker pair of slippers or an actual formal pair of tennis shoes close by the bed or even underneath it. That way, the first thing you do when you get out of the bed, because assuming it's going to happen at like 4 o'clock in the morning, right? And you're going to be dead asleep. But make sure that you have that, and then keeping a flashlight nearby, or if your phone is charging next to you, know exactly how to get, like, put the flashlight app, you know, in the hot link, so that way the first thing you do is put on your shoes and turn on the flashlight so that you can see where you're going. There is a MyShake app. There was some shaking here in the room earlier. I wasn't sure whether we should have like ducked and cover, but I don't think it was an earthquake. I started checking my phone to see if it wasn't. Okay. So I'm not sure if it was an earthquake or not. But the MyShake app is a really great app that you can download on your phone. It gives you, I think it's up to like 30 seconds of warning, and 30 seconds is a lot of time. Considering 30 seconds is enough for you to get up, put on some shoes, and grab the light. So I highly recommend that you do that. I think there's a threshold. The shaking has to be severe enough. Maybe it's like a 3 point something or a 4 before you get those kinds of alerts. But we tell people to download it anyways, because any kind of advanced warning for an earthquake is going to give you a couple extra seconds ahead of that. During an earthquake, you've probably already seen these images before, but there are modified actions that you can take. So if you are using a cane, or you're in a wheelchair, or you need a walker, instead of duck, cover, and hold on, things that you might consider doing are locking those wheels in place and covering and holding on. The most important piece is that you want to protect your head at all costs if you can. But just making sure that your walkers or whatever devices that you use to assist you in your mobility are locked and stable, so that you can also remain stable. It's probably a good idea. After earthquakes, take 3 seconds to breathe, to calm your nerves, and then check yourself. A lot of times when you're in that moment, your adrenaline is going, and you know, the next thing is, okay, I made it, I want to go help people. But before you can help people, you do need to help yourself. So take a moment, catch your breath, get your bearings, and make sure that you're looking, check your whole body, touch yourself, look at yourself. If you are around people, ask them to take a look at you to make sure there's no bleeding or scratching that maybe you didn't notice in the heat of that moment. If you can, after that, if you're able and all is well, check your household, your surroundings. If there are other people in your home that you're responsible for, try to check in on them as well. And then move out to your broader community. So we kind of went over this: drop, cover, and hold on. If you're inside, we want you to stay inside. If you're in bed, try to stay there as long as there's nothing going to fall on you or crush you while you're in the bed. If you're in a high rise, try to stay away from the windows. Don't use the elevator. That's not going to be your best bet. I think a lot of elevators are like programmed to kind of stop or then go out of service if they feel any shaking. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's the way they're programmed. If you're outside, try to find an open area that's not near any power lines. That's a really big hazard. Things fall down. We don't want you to get electrocuted or crushed. And then if you're driving, if you can, stop your car, pull over to the side, and wait for the shaking to stop until it's all clear. Sorry about the print on this one. It's just a really big list. We want you to kind of know what to expect after an earthquake. So I'm going to read through this really quickly. So you can expect to hear a lot of noise, creaking, shaking, rumbling. There are sound clips out on YouTube that just kind of give you an idea of what an earthquake sounds like. It's pretty alarming. You can expect sirens. The city of Oakland has a warning system. I think there's about 21 different alarms that run across the hill lengthwise. So from like starting North Oakland going down towards San Leandro. Sprinkler systems might be activated, so you might also have some water coming on. And then if you have MyShake apps or any other kind of early alert and warnings, if you've signed up for AC alert or things like that, you might also be getting dings and buzzes that way. Aftershocks are something that we're concerned about. For those of you who don't know, there's always an initial shaking from the earthquake, but then, you know, within the seconds following, there's always that aftershock. So a lot of times when you're ducking and you're covering and you're holding on, that initial shaking may have stopped and you try to come out because you think it's safe, but then it starts to shake again. So we want you to make sure that you give enough time for that aftershock to either not happen or to happen and you still be safe in your hiding spot. ATMs might be out of service. You might not be able to get money if you need it. Road closures, infrastructure damage, public transportation might not be readily available. If you rely on BART or bus or rail, A lot of these transportation agencies have programs and protocols in place where they will stop service in an emergency. So that might be something just to consider, how you will either evacuate or get to the next safest place. Communications are probably going to be out. You're certainly not going to be getting UPS or USPS delivered to your door in an earthquake. If you are expecting things in the mail, that's just probably not going to be your best bet. Something else to consider are cell towers, wireless communication. You might not be able to get calls in or out. It's probably more likely that you won't be able to get calls in because everyone's going to be, trying to call into the affected area. But we'll talk more about what it means to have an out-of-state contact so that you can at least convey information when you need to. To that effect, phones are probably going to be out of service as well. Landlines might work, but it's tricky. In this case, if you are someone who enjoys the radio, we would typically ask you to turn on a radio so you can get your information. And if you love radio, go one step above and learn how to become a ham radio operator. That is a very useful tool or skill to have in an emergency. Things you can expect also are those major resources that we rely on these public agencies to provide, such as power, our gas, our water. You might have water, but it might not be clean water. So knowing how to either having clean water or knowing how to boil water in case that arises is something you might want to consider. Resources like food, there's going to be a really big demand for that depending on how long after the quake we are. So, we always say have enough food ready, in your garage if you can, but just kind of be aware that a lot of these things that you might just go out and expect to have readily available, they're not going to be. Pharmacies, medication, you probably won't have access to that. Hospitals will likely be crowded and they'll be prioritizing people based on their injuries, who has the most severe life-threatening injuries. So making sure that you know enough about your medical needs to kind of sustain you for a little while is probably going to go a long way. There's going to be limited access to city services like police and fire. So those public safety agencies, they're going to be largely overwhelmed and probably focused on larger, more complex tasks that will make it difficult for them to get to you if they're able to get to you at all. Imagining, that you live on one side of the 580 freeway and that, bridge or an overpass collapses, you're not going to be able to get from the hills down or vice versa. So if that freeway collapses or there's damage to that infrastructure, that will also significantly delay the ability for first responders to get to you. Gas stations are going to be closed probably. If they are open, there's going to be a very long line. And it's not just to get extra ice or water or food. People are probably going to be getting gas to get out if they need to. So that's just, something that we want to keep in mind. Garbage, sewer, debris from things like landslides, flooding, earthquakes, that builds up very quickly. That also makes it difficult for people to get out or evacuate if they need to. It could make it difficult for you to pass through certain places if you're trying to meet up with family or go somewhere. So be aware of that. Disasters create a lot of tension and stress, and emotional reactions can come out from people. So just understanding that anyone that you come in contact with immediately after an earthquake is probably not going to be their best self. That means tempers are probably shorter. Patience is going to go a long way. Kindness and empathy and understanding are going to help you. That's going to help you coalesce and build, relationships with people in the moment so that you can all respond together more effectively. So just kind of wanting to, get you ready for that. A lot of people are going to be in shock or in disbelief. So doing your best to kind of manage and regulate your own emotions will also help you in that situation. People are not always good. And so they use disasters and emergencies as opportunities to get over on other folks. So you might come in contact with a lot of people who are doing some price gouging or scamming. And so that's just something to watch out for, even more so in an emergency or after a disaster. Because you might not have access to your office or your home might be destroyed, certain parts of it, you might not have access to the important financial records that you need. So just kind of being aware of that and thinking about those things ahead of time. You can create copies and put that on secure drives. We'll talk a little bit more about what kind of documentation you might want to consider having, but that's just something to put there. And then your job might be destroyed. So the possibility of you being off of work for a little while on a mandatory vacation is something that could happen as well. Your home similarly could be destroyed. And, you know, understanding that even though you don't have a job or a home to go to, your financial obligations aren't going to stop. So having plans for how you're going to keep up with things as everything is going haywire is probably going to be something you want to think about well in advance. That way it's not so stressful when it all compounds at the same time. So talking about climate change as its own hazard, it has a disproportionate impact on older Americans. It is something that we are aware of, and we've tried to create more opportunities to support this population in the city of Oakland. We know that extreme heat, extreme cold, general poor air quality, and other extreme weather disasters have really negative impacts on this population due to some of the sensitive respiratory needs or medical needs that folks have, arthritis, things like that. It makes it difficult. These events are associated with higher risks of hospitalization for our more vulnerable communities. And so that's just something that, you know, if you already kind of have those concerns for your own health, just thinking, you know, a little bit beyond that, what might that look like when those medical needs are exacerbated or those challenges are kind of when you put pressure on those areas. So why? What specifically makes older adults or older Americans more vulnerable to the effects of climate change? It's the aging process in general. Your geographic location also plays a lot in it, and inability to get to other places. Your socioeconomic status. A lot of folks are retired or they're working on a different kind of income. Social isolation, if you're not staying active and, you know, not networking and really being social in that space. There are also compounded effects when you're talking about racial and ethnic disparities in addition to age. And then generally speaking, cognitive impairment. Sometimes we're not as sharp as we'd like to be as we get a little bit older. And so all of these things together make it just a little bit more dangerous for you when we're talking about some of these disasters and hazards. So this is a short video. It's really here to educate you, but also to give me a speaking break. I'm gonna go ahead and let this play, but it is a really good video that I think does a great job at illustrating some of the concerns that we might have for you or that you might have for yourself as older adults. Do I play it? And then there's sound as well. One second. There should be sound. Yeah. But while we work that out, I'm happy to answer any questions, if anybody has any. I have some questions of the group, if no one has a question for me. So just out of curiosity, how many of you do have a go bag? We give them out for everybody who registers for the longer version of this training. Anybody have a go bag yet? Okay, thank you so much. Proud of you. Does anybody know? Yeah.
It came fire. I think the company, it came fire. How would I get out? And they say go to in the stairwell. But mind you, I only have one day, so how would I get out?
That's a great question. So I have questions for you. Do you have an elevator lift or a wheelchair lift in the building?
Elevator.
Do you know did your building go over the protocol for like when that will or will not be out of service?
It came fire.
Do not use elevator. Okay. This one is tricky. I don't have the right answer, but my first like inclination is to kind of ask you, who in your complex do you know? We talk about that in some of the best practices in a few slides, and we really talk about knowing who your allies are, who can help you. What's your support network like immediately in your living area? 911. So one of the best practices that we'll share with everybody is kind of have to build that network, know your neighbors. And that's actually where I teach this other training. It's called CERT training. And the whole impetus of that is know who is in your vicinity, who you might be able to connect with in advance. But specifically as it regards, or as it pertains to personal emergency preparedness, that's something that you know that you're going to need. So it's definitely going to be wise for you to maybe just know who's directly across from you, having some more like deeper conversations with them. It's not necessarily being nosy, asking them like what their work schedule is, if they've kind of agreed to be your friend. And, you know, in the context of emergency preparedness, you're saying, hey, you know, I live here, I'm by myself, these are my needs. You know, would you be willing to help me? And if they say yes, then ask this question. Well, what's your schedule like? You know, could I call you if this happens on a Tuesday at 12? Things like that. Again, it's not the right answer or the perfect answer, but that's the first step that I would take, is knowing who I can be friends with and who's going to help me, and vice versa. You might be able to do something for them.
Could I add to that too?
Yes.
You could also reach out to your landlord too, or whoever the building manager or building owner is, and try to figure out if that elevator is going to be accessible or not in the case of a fire. I know sometimes they have those signs up that say, please don't use the elevator in case of emergencies, because they want the elevator to be available for people who need it during an emergency. And that might be you in this case. So I would reach out to them and see if that's the situation.
Thank you.
I guess I'm George Robinson from our Berkeley Center. I would like to address this. I didn't want to address it when the officer was up there because it didn't have nothing to do with the earthquake, but it has something to do with the peace issue. When you call in for emergency situation, like I call an incident that happened around this, you know, where I live, I won't mention names, but anyway, they told me when I pick up the necessary, they left a message center, and they said, we can't help you right now, we're not available, leave a message. I never heard of that in my life, and I was like devastated as a senior. I'm just saying, what if I have to do this or that, right? And they never did call back. Never did call back, so I had to call another day, issue to clarify. So I'm not gonna trust it, none of them will get on, that's the way they did it, so what can I say? But what if it was an emergency? You know, I mean, seriously, what I had, you know, what's gonna say.
Thank you for bringing that up. That's not the first time I've heard some concerns about the 911 emergency line not being available specifically for OPD. So in a couple of slides, I think they're up here. If they're not in this one, they're definitely in the full expanded version of this training, but we provide those non-emergency numbers or like direct lines to OPD or OFD dispatch as backup numbers to call in case 911 doesn't work. I can't change anything about the staffing, but we can give you additional phone numbers to call. And oftentimes if they pick up on those alternative lines, and they have the resources, they'll still dispatch someone to you. But a lot of times the initial complaint or the concern that I hear is that I can't even get my call through. So those alternative numbers sometimes come in handy.
I'm gonna do this here so that I can make sure that everybody can hear it.
Thank you.
My name is Dr. Jan Burley, and I am Director of Public Health Emergency Preparedness and Response. I'm also the Deputy Health Officer for San Francisco Department of Public Health. We plan for, respond to, and then try to help people recover from disasters and emergencies. It ranges from cyber attacks to the earthquake we all fear in California, to extreme air quality events, Seniors are uniquely vulnerable to climate change. And so it's really important for seniors to prepare for issues around climate change. Older adults are very susceptible to heat injury, and the disproportionate number of deaths after an extreme heat event are among seniors. And that's true whether it's Kyoto, Japan, New York, or San Francisco. When it comes to a combination of heat and air, which will happen one day it'll be really warm no matter where you live, and there'll be smoke in the air. And we really hope there also won't be a power shutdown. But if we get all three, the most important issue to deal with in that moment is heat. We actually live at a tiny range of temperature safely. We do great with cold. You can go all the way down to 0, and as long as you're wearing a big fluffy down jacket, or you take even minimum precautions, you're doing great. But when you start living above 100 degrees, it gets really dangerous for a lot of people, and the symptoms can be subtle. There's not a punch list of these symptoms that we're going to require you to have before you say you have heat stress. If you're getting stressed by the heat, you're getting stressed by the heat, and we want you to get somewhere cool. Getting chills when the weather outside is warm, feeling a little nauseated, feeling dizzy, those are things that are really not okay when it's 95 degrees outside. Once you have heat stroke, you must be in a hospital and you must get 911 level services. Heat is a very rapid, lethal problem, and so it's very important to shelter from the heat in ways that you can. There are cooling centers that are available in almost every area of America. And the ways we know that they work are when they're places that people tend to want to go to anyways. We found out from some of the people in Nevada that they have a lot of attendance at their cooling centers. And the reason why is because they're casinos. So if you have a place that you go to normally, that you get some joy from, or you're used to going there, and they have air conditioning, that's where you want to think of that as your cooling center. But this time, plan to spend the day. We tend to send out a message that says, hydrate appropriately, or drink enough water. What we don't ever say is drink lots of water. That's because if you're on a diuretic, or if you have congestive heart failure, if you have some kidney problems, drinking tons of water is actually not safe for you in particular. So what we want you to do is make sure you're drinking enough to honestly urinate at a normal level. You want to make sure you're not getting dehydrated for whatever your normal is. The last is to do common sense things that we can forget sometimes if we only have sporadic heat waves. Things like only stand in the shade, don't stand in the sun. Wear light colored clothing. During a very remarkable heat wave in France, they found that it was actually predictive of survival to have worn light colored clothing. And one of the last most important steps that people often don't think about is make sure your bedroom moves to where it's coolest. We're experiencing day-to-day impacts from climate change. Some of the wildfire events we've had in San Francisco, where we inherited the smoke from a different area, those are also the impact of climate change. Air quality tends to have a minimal effect over time in terms of people's health. No one will say it's okay for you to be exposed to all that smoke. And what we hope is that you can get to a cleaner airspace, wait it out, and then your lungs will start to do air exchanges the same way your kitchen does after you've burned something. But the most important thing when there's heat and air combined is that people pay attention to the heat, which may mean that you hear a health official like me telling you to open your windows and turn on the fan, even though the air is really smoky. The other important thing about air quality issues like wildfire smoke is that we are not recommending for people that they get an N95 respirator. Those are very specific medical devices that were created for people to use in the operating room and to prevent horrible diseases like Ebola from spreading. They're only known to be effective when they're tightly fitted, person can't have any facial hair, and they clog as you breathe through them. So it actually increases the work on your cardiovascular system significantly. And so in general, we are strongly recommending that people create a cleaner airspace in their home or go to a cleaner air center instead of relying on that mask. And it's important to know too that bandanas are those little yellow pleated masks that have a string around your ear. They do nothing for you. And so the danger of those kind of things is a false sense of security. So a prolonged power shutdown is a new fear for those of us in disaster preparedness and planning and response. It is now an issue where a power company may shut down the power, and when they do, it will take somewhere between 2 and 4 days or more to be restored. Now, for someone who is dependent on a motorized wheelchair, someone who lives in a building with an elevator, someone who goes to dialysis where they may not have a generator, these are very serious situations to find themselves in. When we have a prolonged power shutdown for whatever reason, we want to make sure that people are prepared. This is where having signed up for alerts will be very important. It may also be that you realize that if you are dependent on your motorized wheelchair and you have an extra battery or the ability to get one, that may be the thing to do. We also now know that some simple basic things like your toilet and your water may be dependent on power. So if you can't get your water to flow or your toilet to flush, do you have plastic bags and a 5-gallon container to put waste in until the power returns? And then finally, many of us are aware that when the power goes out for several days, we're thinking about that refrigerator and freezer really early. So it's really important to try, in a weird way, to not be frugal. If your refrigerator has been room temperature, it's not safe. A simple, easy step that people can take now is to put a gallon jug of water in their freezer. If it is melted, nothing in the freezer should be eaten. But in general, we want people to take a prolonged power shutdown seriously, and especially if it is occurring during a heat wave and an air quality event like wildfire smoke. We know for a fact that trusted information saves lives. We also know that seniors and older adults, though, only about 40% of them have signed up for their local government alerts. Those are very important to get. They'll give you a heads up and allow you to plan and allow you to reach out to your social network and your friends and even fact check the information with an agency you might be in contact with or with your local health provider. In general, we tell everyone to make a go bag when it comes to taking steps to protect yourself. And what a go bag means is you've taken the time to think about if someone knocked on your door from the fire department and said, you have to go now, what would you need to be okay for 3 or 4 days? There's a joke or a song in preschools called Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes. For seniors, I would love to change that to eyes, ears, teeth, and toes, because you really want to make sure you don't forget your glasses, you have those very expensive hearing aids, you've got your dentures, which might be in a different room, and that your toes represent any mobility aid that you need. There's so many instances of people getting to a safe place and being sheltered, but not having those things. And that can really impair a person's ability to function, communicate, understand what's going on around them. And of course, for seniors and older adults and anyone with chronic disease, we feel very strongly that it's important to try to have some of your medications. And if not your medications, then at least a list of your medications. I would love if seniors and older adults, pretty much all of us, could start thinking of our lives in terms of seeking safety. Because safety is a form of self-care and it's a form of nurturing. And without it, I think we all take a hit in our health. I believe that we owe our seniors a lot. And what we really owe them is the ability to thrive and be safe in their senior years.
I'm sure the person in that video appreciates your applause. So there are a few more slides, but generally speaking, did that land well on folks, that video? The much more polished and concise way to go through some of the slides that I'm still going to present on, just to highlight, because we really want folks to know about that. But that was a really good resource that I wanted to make sure to share. It came to me actually from a partner. We did a preparedness event or training at St. Mary's Center, and the coordinator there found this video and said, anytime I do presentations to the senior community, for the older adult community, I should share that. So I hope that that gave you a lot of good insights and things to consider. So they talked about heat there. Here's just the list. Those are some of the key takeaways. In the city of Oakland, we tend to look at your public spaces. So libraries, recreation centers, other senior centers have been designated as respite centers. In that context, it's just respite from whatever's going on outside. So if it is a bad air quality day, that might be something that's like cleaner air center or a clean air center. Not all of the city facilities are outfitted with all of the HEPA filters, so we can't call every single one of those facilities clean air facilities, but some of them might be designated as cleaner air than whatever you might have access to outside. So identify those locations in advance. That's where knowing kind of the local hazard mitigation plan and what our emergency operations plan, if you're familiar with those documents, or at least where to go online to get them. I believe that there is some kind of indication that tells you where to go. But something that was mentioned in the video is knowing where to sign up for those alerts. On the tables here, you should see a magnet and it's called Zone Haven. There's been a branding change. Zone Haven is now Genesis Protect, but signing up for those alerts and knowing how to navigate those systems can tell you where those cooling centers or those respite centers are in the event of an emergency. So you can Google Zone Haven. I think all of the links still work. It'll just redirect you to the landing page. And when you get to that landing page, it'll probably say Genesis Protect, but either one of those should work. And so there should be a couple of slides where I'll kind of go over what a Zone Haven notification or an AC alert looks like and how to read the status of your zone on Zone Haven, how to find your zone number. But things like that can help you identify where to go and where the resources are in an emergency. Knowing the symptoms or the signs of heat stress can help you proactively identify some things that are going on with you before it gets really, really bad. They did say drink an appropriate amount of water for you, standing in the shade, wearing light colored clothes, sleeping where it's cool. All of these things, they were mentioned in the video, but I really wanted to make sure that they caught them as a key takeaway here. So if you want to grab your device and take a photograph of this slide, I highly recommend it. So something else that they talked about in terms of power outage, it's not necessarily in a go bag, and I'll get to it later where we talk about like go bags and stay kits. Stay kits are things that you probably want to have if you have to shelter in place for a little while. And so that's where that 5-gallon bucket and plastic bags and sheeting can come in handy for you. Is when you need to stay for a little while, what might you need to maintain sanitization and comfort if you have all these other services cut off? Okay, staying informed, those emergency alerts that were mentioned. There are several kinds of alerts that you can sign up for. I don't have all of them myself because I don't need all of them, but I have AC Alert and I get alerted for everything. AC Alert is actually pretty easy to sign up for. On the back end, you might see it as Everbridge. They're one and the same. But AC Alert is a really good one. It stands for Alameda County Alert. It's Alameda County's mass notification system. It covers just that, all of Alameda County. So what I recommend for folks, sign up for AC Alert and sign up to get the alerts in your city where you are. But I've also signed up to know where my aunt is, where my dad works, and also my sister's school, just because I know that they're not plugged in, so I want to be plugged in for them. The alerts on AC Alert that you can sign up for, they run the gamut. So you can sign up for things as mundane as local traffic closures. Alameda, for example, is really good at pushing out notifications on when that tube is down for maintenance or whatever they're doing. And then you can get like really, really big ones where it's like active shooter in the moment, avoid the area. So you go on and you elect how you want to receive those alerts and what kinds of alerts you want to receive. And they'll push them out, and they can come out via phone call, text message, email, or all of that if you like it. And one of the features that I really like about AC Alert, because I've signed up for the phone calls, and I'm saying I like it as if it doesn't annoy me when I'm working, but I do like that they'll keep trying. So if you've opted for a phone call, they'll keep calling you and they'll leave a message and they'll keep calling until you pick up the phone and press the button to acknowledge receipt. And so that to me indicates that it works and they really want me to know. Zone Haven, I just mentioned that, there are magnets, it's now called Genesis Protect. But that will give you a lot of information specifically about the status of your neighborhood or your area and whether there's a need to evacuate or not. I think there is a slide, I'll double check it, we edited this quite significantly, but there should be a slide that actually teaches you how to read that, the Zone Haven information. And so it goes over, you know, what the status of your zone is, understanding those different status things, and then being able to click the different tabs within that app or that web app, so that you can see what major thoroughfares or, you know, corridors are still available for you to use as exit routes. In addition to, again, any respite areas or meetup points or like points of, you know, commodities distribution, things like that, where you can go get additional resources. Nixle is a really good one for those of us who are a little bit more concerned about crime. I believe it's primarily utilized by OPD. That is something that we don't manage here, like in the fire department. If you're getting emergency alerts or you're looking for emergency alerts, for natural hazards and disasters, our alerts are likely going to go through Zone Haven and AC Alert. But if you're concerned about the crime and you just kind of want to keep abreast in that space, Nixle is a really good one for you. The police use that one pretty actively. If anyone's already registered for it, you should see a lot there. I think it also depends on, it goes by your neighborhood too. So you might have to register and kind of let you register your address. And I think that's how you get the information that is pertinent to where you're at the time. You can also text your zip code to the phone number, and that's another way that you can register really quickly. The NOAA weather radio, NOAA stands for, someone from FEMA help me if I mess it up, but it's National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, is that right? Okay. So they have weather radios. We get all of our weather and our news from them. When we're looking at a big video wall in the EOC, trying to forecast and predict what's coming and how we need to prepare for that, we're relying on this team to give us our information. I say that to say it's good for us, it's good for you. So check those weather radios out. And then there's sirens. Has anybody in here heard the sirens go off in Oakland?
Every first Wednesday at noon.
So that's a really, really key thing. If you hear those sirens, like I said, there's about 21 of them that go across Oakland lengthwise. So like from Berkeley end of Oakland, North Oakland, going down towards San Leandro. They're strategically placed throughout. I did recently receive an update. I think there's maybe 5 or 6 of them that are out of commission right now that we are actively working on to get them. But these sirens, they are tested every Wednesday, every first Wednesday of the month. There is a dispatcher. It's not like an automatic code that goes out. There's a real person, a human being in the dispatch office at fire who goes to the room and presses the button every Wednesday at noon, every first Wednesday at noon. So if you hear that siren anywhere in Oakland and it's like 12:07, if it shouldn't be that long either, or if it's like, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday, I keep using Tuesday as an example, probably because today's Tuesday. That's a warning. That is your first indication. You need to either check your phone, log on to Zone Haven, see what's going on, because that siren's going off and it's not the right time or day. So they have different sounds. I'm not really good at mocking the sounds, but if anybody wants, we can do a private call on Zoom later, and I can, I can kind of do that. But yeah, if you hear the sirens on any other day at any other time, something's not right. Oh, great, it's still in here. So this is a kind of an in-depth dive of what Zone Haven looks like, or Genesis Protect. I'm gonna keep saying that, Genesis Protect, Genesis Protect, Genesis Protect. But basically, we've divided the city of Oakland, and there's actually several cities represented on this screenshot of the map. I think most of the Bay Area counties are using it, but I can't say for certain. But we're only looking at Oakland right now. So Oakland is divided into different zones. I do not know exactly how many, and I'm not going to try to count because it's too small. But all of the Oakland zones start with the OKL designator. So if you go to this website, community.zonehaven.com, it should take you to the landing page, or if you're sitting at a table, you should have a magnet which should have a QR code on it. You can scan that QR code with your smartphone and you can type in your address. When you type in your address, your zone, it should zoom in on the zone that you're associated with. or that that address is associated with. So if you are looking for the zone of your place of work, or maybe your favorite, you know, local gathering point where you go play chess, whatever it is, it might be in a different zone. And zones are important. It's not to be confused with a police beat or a council district. It's totally different mapping. The geographical boundaries are different. They're not the same. So your fire district is going to be different from your police beat, which is different from your council beat. There's different ways to break up the city. But specifically as it pertains to emergency alerts and evacuation information, we've divided the city into this many sections. And so when you're reading it, I don't know if you can, I can't make it bigger, but I do encourage you to try to follow along on your phone if you can. All zones start with OKL, and then they have a number next to it. This is really critical information. If you sign up for those AC alerts, or if you you're receiving them, chances are the alert or the warning that we send out is going to say something to the effect of active shooter in the vicinity or known, evacuation order issued for zone OKL, and then a number. So if you've signed up for those AC alerts, but you don't know what your zone is, the message is effectively not valid. You're not going to know what they're talking about because you don't know what zone they're talking about. So we advise that you get that in advance. So you can see them, some of them have E in them, some of them don't have number or don't have the letter. It's all, you know, pretty self-explanatory there. If you can get really accurate if you just type in your full address, and that'll just pop it up, take a photograph of it, use a permanent marker, write it on the magnet, slap that on a, you know, on a fridge if you can, and just kind of be aware of that. Something else to note about this information that pops up is you'll see that you can subscribe to alerts right from the Zone Haven app. So if you want to maybe just do this at home in one step, go straight to Zone Haven. And there are ways that you can, just as it says it in the top right there, subscribe to alerts. And then something else, a lot of people are, you know, they've looked it up right now and they're like, well, there's nothing going on in my neighborhood. I can't see anything. It's really important to understand that these are updated in real time. So if your status is normal, that's a good thing. When something is going on, that status will change, and so will the information. So just because we want to be really good on time, I'm going to fly through these next slides pretty quickly. But we talked about the different watches and orders and the sounds. There are fire weather watches, there are red flag warnings, there's evacuation warnings, evacuation orders. They're two different things. And then just knowing, you know, when you hear those sirens to kind of be aware of things. But we really want you guys to understand that when you get an evacuation order, we can't actually make you leave your home. But we are highly recommending it. We don't issue any of these things very lightly. So if you see one of these, please take heed. How much time do we have? Do you stop? Okay, cool. Let me know. I will take offense. There's a lot of information here. So older adult preparedness, generally speaking, you guys are going to be the help until professional responders arrive. So the gentleman asked, you know, I'm gonna be by myself, who's gonna help me? You're gonna need to lean on your neighborhood, your neighbors. So you need to be able to care for yourself if you can, your family, your neighbors for several days, because the resources are gonna be pulled in a bunch of different directions. These household steps that you can prepare, that you can take to prepare, making sure that you're anchoring heavy furniture, securing water heaters, installing those CO2 alarms. If you live in an apartment, make sure that you're in connection with your landlord in case there are utilities that you might not be able to access on your own, or you might need help locating those utilities. Understand the emergency plans that your building has for you, maybe practice them if you can, and then having the right insurance, both as a homeowner and as a renter, can help you. Making sure that you are staying connected. There are trainings that the city of Oakland provides to kind of help facilitate those conversations between you and your neighbors. I'm shameless plug, CERT training, community emergency response team training. Our youngest member, I believe, was 15 and our oldest was 82. So it really is a program that's available for everybody. It's free of charge. It's 24 hours. I teach it. I think I'm a good teacher and fun to hang out with. join the neighborhood watch team. Brandy was sharing that her family, they pee, we do too. So I highly recommend that you get involved. There are neighborhood services coordinators. The city of Oakland does have like a neighborhood watch style program that you can get, tapped in with. And if you live in the community, you probably have an NCPC, those go by police beat. So there are community resource officers. There's a lot of ways to stay connected, and highly encourage you to find those. If you need help, email us, we'll respond. Others that you might be responsible for, making sure that you're checking in with them when they need you to. Having a contact list will probably help you kind of streamline those communications and things like that. Just be empathetic and understanding. Everybody's gonna have a need. If you can meet it, do your best. If you can't, say I'm sorry, and maybe keep an ear out or an eye out for other resources and send them back for help if you can. Making plans, evacuation plans. Several routes are probably ideal. Imagine an earthquake or a flood. If your primary route is obstructed for any reason, you probably want to have a backup plan. So this is my best effort at a drawing. I'd put this on my refrigerator and be proud of it. But there's several routes, and then there's always a meeting place. If you can have multiple meeting places, we highly encourage that. And then having a communications or check-in schedule. Where like in an event of emergency, if I don't hear from my sister, 2 hours after the initial something, I know that something's happened because she should have tried to reach me already, and she's not here at our designated meeting spot. We talked about it, or I mentioned it earlier, just having an out of area contact, just because the lines are going to be clogged. First responders communications are probably going to be prioritized, but it'll be difficult for you to get calls in and out. One of the really cool tips that I learned, I'm just going to highlight on this one, is if you know how to change your voicemail, hello, you've reached so-and-so, I'm not available right now. Even if you can't get a phone call out, if you are able to at least change that voicemail, anybody who does call you but gets your voicemail can at least hear the greeting. Okay, they're safe. And then maybe you can leave information that says, I'll be at this place, and they can't talk to you, but they have some kind of update. Also, Facebook allows you to check in and things like that as well. So these are very specific disability tips. We heard these in the video, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But I did like the nursery rhyme for the eyes, the ears, the teeth, and the toes. That is so critical. After an emergency, I like to eat all the time, but after an emergency, I'm probably going to be hungry. And if I don't have teeth, I'm going to be really upset. So just remembering things that you need to get along well throughout the day is going to help you a lot. Service animals are a big deal. We allow service animals. I don't know all of the rules specifically, that's not my area of expertise, but making sure that you reach out to somebody who is in charge of that mass care and shelter, so that if you have a service animal, you know what rules to follow and what to be prepared for in that area. This is more just direction. Make your emergency plan. Understanding your cognitive needs, taking account of your medication, make sure you have extra medication if you need to. Your healthcare provider should at least be open to having that discussion with you. What do you need to have extra medication in case you need it in emergency? Making sure that you have a digital copy of whatever this list is for yourself and anybody else that's going to be taking care of you, so that they have something to rely on. Knowing again, so that make your community, how would you react? Make sure that you'll know specifically how everybody on your plan or who's supposed to help you, how they need to communicate with you. That will be very helpful. Making sure that this is all repetitive, but just really good information to just kind of have with you. So be prepared to make decisions when those evacuation orders or notices come, making sure that you know what you're going to do. You never want to hesitate in the moment. So, think about the things that could happen and just kind of already have an if and what tree mapped out in your mind, so that you don't have to decide. Make sure that you practice your kit or you practice your plan and have your disaster kit. Again, go back to things that you need to keep with you. And, the kits are things that you might need to hunker down for a little while. So make sure that you have all of that together, then plan for any transportation or shelter if you can. Post your emergency phone numbers. And then teach anyone who is in your plan. If you have people identified in your plan to support you, make sure you teach them in advance how best to support you. That way everyone's not trying to learn on the spot. So this is a list. I'll leave it up and you can just take a quick photograph of it, but just some things that you might want to have in terms of that documentation, that you might need to have access to: insurance policies, birth certificates, licenses, things like that can all expedite your service on the back end when you need to recover. And then we've already talked about the kits. These are, again, more lists or suggestions of what you might want to put in your kit. So we have go bags. Everyone will get a go bag. And if you register to take the full version of the class, we go through a lot more. But there's a sample go bag out in the on the resource tables. Feel free to check it out, see what we give out. But this is also really helpful. And then it kind of goes back through other hazards. I'm going to skip fire, but generally speaking, there are organizations in the city of Oakland that you can connect with ahead of time, who can help you develop some of these skills. So I kind of already plugged CERT, the community organizing training, but for anyone who's interested in additional preparedness resources, OCP&R is a great partner. And then if you're into radio work or ham radio communications, or GoldenReady are also really great partners. I think that might be it.
So round of applause for Brianna. Thank you so much. We have, so for those of you who are online, who are like, well, I'm not getting all the information that they have in the room, we will be providing you with the handouts that we have, the presentations that we have, so that you can go through and actually digest all of the lists and information that has been provided, so you can utilize it in the future. But I would like for us to move forward in our presentation. So if you need to step away, take a bathroom break, we definitely understand. But I would like for us to move on to our cybersecurity presentation. So just give us a moment to be able to upload our presentation, and we'll be right back with you with Justin Lola from CE's.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin Lola. I'm the Vice President of IT for Center for Elders Independence. And I'm glad to be here. I'm the IT Security Officer for Center for Elders. I'm also the HIPAA Security Officer, and I've got a plethora of experience in the cybersecurity area. Next. All right. So a little bit about, I guess, some of the programs we have at Center for Elders is we have this great program for our seniors, which we've been running for 3 years, and we have 350 graduates already. And this is a educational program. So they're using iPads to get onto the internet. We provide the devices, the training, the support, and the internet at the Center for Elders, and also if they need some at home, we assist them with that as well. So we open up this whole new world for our seniors. And in doing so, we also provide the security training, because we want to make sure that they can get online securely and safe. And there's so many different, areas that they need to be aware of when they're online. So that's, we want to make sure that they're safe. Next. Also, I'm glad to be here to partner with FEMA. When they asked me to do the presentation here, I was very excited because there was a situation, actually there's quite a few situations that I'm going to go through that hopefully this will help you guys out, help caregivers out to know what some of the risks are out there. So cyber criminals, they are out there, they're everywhere. They want to be your friend. They want to take advantage of you. So they try to befriend you in any way that they can, essentially to get their hands in your pockets, because they do want to, grab your information for identity theft, possibly for credit card fraud. And it's unfortunate, and they do focus on seniors. And it's a lot because seniors trust folks. So, over time, you get to trust your doctor, your nurse, your banker, your lawyer, and they see that and they just take advantage of it. It's so disheartening. Next. And it doesn't matter how they try to take advantage. I mean, they do it by the phone, texting. I mean, every way you communicate, they will take advantage of you. Mail, email, internet, so you name it, however you're using to communicate with others, they will take advantage of you. And that's just unfortunate. Okay. So I'm actually going to go through some examples of some of the fraud that I've seen firsthand. I was called, let's say, a year ago, and someone that I know, someone close to me, called me and said, "Hey, I've got 2 Secret Service agents that are at my front door. And it's like, hey, I need your help." And I'm like, Secret Service agents? Why would they be at your front door? So I'm like, this has got to be a scam. It's fraud, right? So I'm like, okay. So I'll come over, check it out. So I got there, and there were 2 folks with badges that did say Secret Service on it. So actually, I called the local police department to make sure who these folks were, and they were actually Secret Service agents. So, so it was in fact Secret Service agents. So one of the biggest lessons learned here is verify who these people are. So they were Secret Service agents, and I found out why they were there. Apparently, an international wire transfer had happened. My family member had done this. And it was unfortunate because it's international, the money's gone, it's never going to come back. And just FYI, if you do a wire transfer that's within the United States, there's some ability to get it back. But if it goes overseas, forget it, it's gone. So after some additional investigation on what happened, apparently my family member fell for a scam that hey, they won, or they were a beneficiary of a couple $1 million. And it's like, if it sounds like it's unbelievable and it's too good to be true, it is. It's too good to be true. So they started out with, hey, there's taxes to this money, and we need someone to cover these taxes. So, so they wired some money. It's a small amount, well, relatively small amount. And it's like, okay. Hey, there's some other monies that are due before you get the big pot, right? So, and I found out that they were supposedly an attorney and an investment banker. Well, supposedly, right? So, and they weren't. So over time, they asked for some more money. And of course, the amount of money started to increase, right? And unfortunately, the money was all disappearing. And hey, when you don't have money, you go out for a loan, right? So then there was loans involved here. And just a note for caregivers, stay in touch with your family members, because if you see something odd happening, ask them about it. I did ask my family member what's going on, because they were taking a loan out, and they said, "Oh, it's okay. It's it's taken care of. It's confidential." Like, confidential? Why would this be confidential? So it's sort of odd there. So if you get in a response like that from your family member, press them and get more information on it, because it could be a scam, and it was. Unfortunately, that was the case. And there are signs of it. So you just have to keep your eyes open and ears ready to see stuff like that. Another friend of mine got this phone call from Microsoft tech support. I wish Microsoft actually was aware of all the viruses on our computers, because they actually enable some of these viruses, meaning they don't have great code out there. It wasn't Microsoft. It was someone that wanted to get onto your computer, and you have a lot of information on your computer, right? You're on your computer all the time. You have files on there. Well, this person gave them access to the computer, and lo and behold, everything on the computer was wiped away. All their information was gone. I happened to know the administrator password, the core administrator password of the computer. I was able to get onto the system, and I could see that, you know, all the data was gone. They tried to disable me from installing an anti-malware, antivirus software on there. So there's ways to get around it. I of course knew how to get around it. So I found out that they were trying to be malicious and did grab some of the information on it. So if they say they're calling you to help you with your computer that is contaminated with the virus, I would say, thank you. Who are you? Hang up the phone, call that organization directly, right? So, I mean, you can just call it Microsoft and find out, hey, you know, did you guys call me? And most of the time they'll say, no, we didn't call you. So again, verify whoever's calling you to make sure they're actually legitimate. Credit card fraud. So another family member, I got a big family. Another family member called me up and said, hey, you know, I got this call from so-and-so bank, you know, they saw this fraud happening. And you know, they took care of it. They took my number, my information, you know, and they blocked this fraud. And I'm like, wait a minute. They're calling you and they're asking you for your information. One, they should have your information. And they shouldn't be asking these questions. Well, lo and behold, that was the fraud. They had called you trying to warn you that there was an actual fraud going on. And within a few minutes, their card was charged many thousands of dollars. So again, verify who you're talking to make sure that they're legitimate. So, I mean, you can pick up your credit card. There's the phone number on the back, call them up and see if that's actually happening. So just to be aware, there's scams happening everywhere. Text messages. So all of you have phones, you get texts. Well, there's text that says, hey, hey, I need this information or I need this this account right away. Can you send it to me? And it sounds like, you know, it could be someone that like your boss or you're someone that you know. And it's like, wait a minute, this is odd, but okay, they need it right away. Let me go down to the store, get this and send it to them. Again, verify who that is, right? And make sure they are legitimate because that's how scams happen. And then last but not least, social media. If you're on social media, which most of us are, you just got to be careful what you put out there. Your name's out there. Hey, it's your 39th birthday, right? It's like, hey, all right. They know your date now, right? They have your birthday and your age. Address is pretty easy to find nowadays out on the internet. So they have your name, your birthday, your age, your address. What do they need now to file a loan or open up an account? They just need your social security number, right? Or a personal account number, right? And then they're in. I mean, there's not a whole lot more information people need to actually get into your accounts or get to your information or file a, you know, for a credit card, right? So just be aware of the information you put out in social media because you've got those that troll, they look for this information and they put it together from Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, right? They'll look for that information, put it together, and that's how they attack. Okay. All right, next slide. So the two biggest areas where there's a lot of vulnerabilities is email and the internet. So email, please don't send any personal information out there on email, even if they're asking you to update it, right? It's like, hey, you know, this is PayPal. We need to confirm your information. Please send it back to me. It's a scam. Beware of free gifts, right? I mean, what's free nowadays, right? Not a whole lot's free out there. So just be aware of that. They will entice you. They will try to force you to open that email. They want you to click on that file because when you open up that file, guess what? It's malware or it could be ransomware. And it infects your computer and your computer is no longer available unless you pay the ransom. So just don't do it. Next step. And then the internet. The internet is the other most common area where a lot of fraud and there are a lot of risks there. So when you go to a website, make sure you're using HTTPS. That means it's a secure website. If you see a little padlock at the bottom of the website, that means it's secure, it's encrypted. So look for that when you're going to websites. Type in the website's name versus doing a copy and paste from email because it's a lot more secure versus it getting redirected and going to some other website. Avoid using your personal banking information from a public computer. Do you know that when you go to a computer and you type that information, it actually saves it in the what they call the cache in the history. So if you actually step away from that computer, someone else's goes onto that computer, they go back, right? Back. You guys done that on your browser? It actually saves it there. It's so a good thing to do is what they say, clear the cache, clear the history whenever you're done with the computer, because all that information is saved. So be aware of that. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't go to any public place like the library and enter your personal or bank account information. Next. Again, don't put any personal identifiable information to unknown sources, especially like your social security number, date of birth. I mean, if you know them, even when you know them, I would probably pause on that. Like, why would you want that information, right? Because they should have a lot of that information already. So just be aware of that. And yes, a lot of scammers are targeting seniors. They come up to you and ask for donations, charitable donations. Online auctions, they ask for your information, health insurance, prescription medications. They're looking for your personal information so they can then use that for identity theft. So I've identified some security best practices here, and this is just in general. These are some good practices to have. Passwords are still very important. You'll see, like when you go to banks, they give you a code now, right, to enter to make sure that that's actually you. But passwords are still very important. So make sure that they're 8 characters long. You've got some numbers and special characters in there. And then whatever you do, don't use the same password for every account that you have. I mean, I know it's easy, right? Only one password to remember. But guess what? If someone finds out what that password is, they're into everything, right? That you own. So on your computers, you have security programs, right? Anti-malware, antivirus programs. So not only purchase it, but make sure it updates regularly, right? Because there are updates that happen on a regular basis. And then back up your information. Now, there's a lot of services out there in the cloud where you can back up your information. Or a simple thing to do is take a USB drive, right? Plug it in and make periodic copies of your information. I would do that just in case something unfortunate happens, like ransomware or malware, or your hard drive may actually fail. I've seen where a hard drive fails and you can never recover that information. There are forensic organizations out there that actually can save it sometimes, but if you have a backup or two, guess what? You're in better shape. And then just beware of thumb drives. These little thumb drives that you have. There's some folks that actually load it with malware. So when they hand them out sometimes, so if you put this into your computer, guess what? Your computer is now affected. So just be aware of folks that hand that to you, or if someone leaves it on a table, just be cautious with that because it actually could be loaded with something very bad. When making online donations, just make sure the charitable organization that you're donating to is legitimate. So if they're reaching out to you, I'd question, are they legitimate? Go to their website, give them a phone call, make sure they're actually legitimate. Yeah. And also check out where, what they do with the money, right? So like what's happened during COVID, right, where there's a lot of, or a disaster or some event, right, where something happens, they may be trying to help you out, you know, but actually it's not that organization, it's somebody else. So you got to verify who they are and what they're all about. Bank credit card statements, anything that you have with personal information, make sure you shred it before you throw it away. Because your information is that it's in the trash, right? Sometimes folks go through your garbage and actually grab that information. And that's also true of your computers when you get rid of them, right? You got to make sure that that information is gone. So just deleting the data doesn't actually delete your data. I don't know if you guys know that. So you actually, a good practice is you pull that hard drive out and you talk with, you know, an IT service, right, to help you with destroying either physically that drive or find a way to, I mean, what I do is I take a drill and I just put a couple holes through it, right? So that's the simple way to do it. But yeah, you got to destroy that drive. Because if the data is still there, even though you try to delete everything, you know, those ones and zeros can be put back together into actual data. Bank accounts, checking accounts. How often do you guys check it? Do you guys check them at all? Some people check them every day. No, check them once a month. I recommend you check it. I mean, I personally, I check it mine probably every other day or every couple days, right? Because you never know. What you'll see is a charge of like $1, $2, $5. They're gonna see if you're watching. Yeah, right. They're just checking to see. Okay, I'm gonna try this out, and then pretty soon it's $50, $100, you know, and it goes up. So be aware of that. So because you know we do a lot of online shopping. Right. We give our cards to a lot of folks that we're trusting. But guess what? You've got to check your account because they could be using it. You can set up limits like thresholds. Say, hey, if it passes $50 to give you an email, right? So you can set that up with your bank. So definitely use that. So the cyber criminals are trying to pressure you to act quickly. They want to create a sense of urgency, produce fear, and lure victims to immediate action. When you feel that, know that it's probably a scam, okay? They want you to act right away. So, but just don't fall for it. Okay, so you've got the local enforcement, the police departments that can help you. They have cyber security folks on staff now. So you're starting to see this more with the local police departments. They also have, the FBI also has an organization called Crime Complaint Center, IC3.gov, where they will actually review, evaluate, and refer an issue to appropriate agencies. So know that they're out there to help you. You can also go to the Federal Trade Commission, and if you want to report some fraud, you can do so. Social Security or tax fraud or identity theft, there's also websites for that. You can use these to report frauds or to get some help. And whatever you do, if fraud happens, if a scam happens, save all that information, or at least as much as you can, because there may be a situation where you've lost some money. Guess what? Someone may have been able to lock it up and save it for you and be able to come back and say, hey, you know, we found this scammer, we're prosecuting them, we've saved the money that they took from you, and you may have a chance of recovering some of that. That first story I told you about where the wire was happening international, that money's gone, but there was wires that happened within the US. There is now an opportunity to get some of that money back. So they luckily have this opportunity to possibly get some of that money back. I mean, I wouldn't guarantee it's going to happen, but at least there's a chance. So save as much as you can. Next. And that's it. Any questions? Yes.
How secure is the cloud? in your-
How secure is the cloud? Wow, that's a loaded question. So when you say cloud, are you talking like an
Well, like for-
application
Well, like,
or?
for example, the recommendation, back up your data to the cloud. Shred your bank statement. Maybe get, electronic copies of those types of things.
Yeah, so I would, I would trust, a lot of these cloud services, I would make sure that they have security in place. I would still have a backup somewhere, make sure, and you guys do backups, make sure that you can restore it and it actually works. There is these cloud providers, they don't take 100% responsibility, unfortunately, it's a shared responsibility. If some of you guys don't know that. So you just gotta make sure you're protected somehow, you have backup data somewhere. So you still have to participate here, it's a partnership more so. It's not everything on them and they're gonna keep everything. Guess what? Sometimes they get hacked. Sometimes they have ransomware and then everything that you put up there is gone. So you just have to be aware of that. Yeah, sure. So I mean, the internet, the email, these are all great ways to communicate and connect with each other. You just have to be aware. Yeah. So, any other questions? No. All right. Well, be safe out there. Thank you. Yes.
All right, well, thank you all so much for coming out today. We really appreciate the time that you have devoted to your own emergency preparedness, whether it's from cybersecurity threats or from disasters or from active shooter threats. We really appreciate the fact that you care enough to learn about these threats for yourself. And we hope that you will share this information with others. And on behalf of FEMA and the Center for Elders Independence, we really appreciate the time that you took today and hope that you will share some of this information with individuals that you love and just continue to spread the. So I want to turn it over to my boss, our External Affairs Director, David Passy, to just close us out with some final words.
All right. Thank you, Brandy. Really appreciate Brandy, Uche, and the teams that have put this effort together. I've worked a lot of disasters in my career, and I've just come to recognize that small actions make significant differences. So I would invite each of you to think, what can I really do today? Can I sign up for AC Alert? Can I download the FEMA app or the Shake Alert? Can I identify what else I can add to my Go Kit? And then who can I help? So I was joking with my parents as I spoke with them last Saturday, invited them to be here, but they're off on a cruise. But I said to my mom, what does it feel like to have all of your children as AARP members? So I am part of this older adult readiness. That doesn't mean, regardless of what our age, that we can't be the difference for somebody else as well, particularly in our building, in our neighborhood, in the communities in which we live, in our faith communities, at our workplace. So I would just ask you to think, what small or simple thing can I do today? And then take that action. Take it soon. Don't just think you're going to do it, but just do it, and do it as soon as you can, but especially during this month when FEMA and CEI are celebrating National Preparedness Month and National PACE Month. So thanks so much for your participation. Our organizations are eager to work with others in the community. So while we've organized this older adult disaster readiness and awareness event today, we're eager to work with you on other opportunities. So please reach out to us and let's continue to strengthen partnerships in the area. So thanks again.